Injured at 11 on News 10, the latest on what happened. Plus videotape and emotion.
16 have been hospitalized. The train was on its way to Chicago when it screeched off its tracks, flinging 9 cars down an embankment. Federal investigators say gouge marks suggest the wheels of at least one car were off the track 3 miles before the train derailed.
Amtrak's New York to Chicago Lakeshore Limited jumped the tracks and plunged down an embankment. It happened 30 miles east of Buffalo. About 110 people were hurt, at least 5 of them seriously.
There's nothing you can do. You're at the mercy of whatever happens. So I just jumped over my wife and my daughter, and I held onto the seat, underneath to try and keep everybody in one spot.
A group of Boy Scouts on the train pulled out flashlights and helped pull passengers from the wreckage. Police say 9 of the train's 16 cars rolled over.
Morning, when an Amtrak passenger train derailed in upstate New York, 16 have been hospitalized. The train was on its way to Chicago when it screeched off its tracks, flinging 9 cars down an embankment. Federal investigators say gouge marks suggest the wheels of at least one car were off the track 3 miles before the train derailed.
A scream. But as CNN's Brian Jenkins reports, the wreck is all too real for the railway and the wounded.
It was in the fog of early morning on a straight stretch of track in western New York that the Amtrak train slipped off the rails.
I had just woken up and we were going down the tracks, and the next thing I know, you could tell that the train was shifting, and it was just started shaking very fast. And the next thing I knew, it was a complete rumble, and we were off the track. I got thrown up to the other side of the car.
It did, and we waited until the paramedics and the security came, and then they kicked the doors open, and we got off the train.
Investigators later spotted gouges in railroad ties 3 miles back from the crash site.
We have seen signs from that point, and we think probably all the way along, that at least one truck, that is one set of wheels, on one of the cars on this train was derailed from about that point on through the accident scenario.
The crew of a freight train waiting on a side track reportedly saw sparks under the Amtrak train as it passed and radioed the Amtrak crew with a warning. But investigators don't know if the Amtrak driver tried to brake or slow down. All the cars except the 2 locomotives at the front jumped the track. 5 cars in the middle toppled over. More than 100 people were taken to local hospitals for treatment. 3 were flown to Buffalo, 40 miles west. This Boy Scout troop from Massachusetts came through the derailment with no scrapes or bruises.
Most of them were in the further car in, and they were sleeping. Most of them were sleeping. They said the packs were coming off the top and falling down on them and things, but there wasn't anybody that was thrown around at all.
Once investigators give the okay, railroad crews will use cranes to pull the toppled cars upright. They do not expect to find any bodies underneath. Brian Jenkins, CNN, Batavia, New York.
A train that never reached its final destination. The Lakeshore Limited jumped the tracks, and for a moment, passengers found their lives turned upside down.
First thing you think is you're gonna die. I was trying to protect my son, and then everything fell on top of us.
Good evening, I'm Don Alhart. Jenny Ryan will join us in just a moment. But first, many are still shaken tonight following an early morning train wreck in Batavia. 340 people, including crew and service workers, were on board the Lakeshore Limited when it derailed. Of those, 110 were injured, 2 people seriously. Early clues in the investigation point to one car that may have been off the tracks for as much as 3 miles before the train derailed. The National Transportation Safety Board released new details about the accident earlier tonight. News Source 13's Jenny Ryan was at that news conference. She is in Batavia now to bring all of this together for us. Jenny?
Don, it was just about this time last night that the Lakeshore Limited was heading west towards Syracuse. It stopped in Rochester and was headed toward Buffalo, but never made it. Instead, it derailed halfway between here in Batavia. Why? Investigators still don't know. Tonight, we return to the scene to find out what we do know about what happened last night. A familiar sight is back on one side of the tracks. Slowly, freight trains are passing. On the other side lies the wreckage of the Amtrak passenger train. Before the Amtrak train derailed, crew members of an oncoming freight train noticed sparks coming from the Amtrak train. Twice they radioed Amtrak to let them know. The messages were never heard. A half mile later, crew members of the freight train looked up and the Amtrak train derailed. Trouble with the Amtrak train may have taken place 3 miles earlier. Investigators believe these gouge marks may have been a sign something was wrong.
They observed on the rail and on the ties between that hold the rails together signs that indicated a derailment had occurred at that point. At least one truck on one car, at least one at that point had derailed.
Investigators say it's not unusual for the engineers not to notice one of the cars off the tracks. Janet Thornton was one of several passengers who came to the news conference looking for answers. She says she noticed something wrong before the derailment.
I heard a clang, like a piece of a metal, a mechanical type of clang, and I said to people on the, did you hear that? That was really weird. And there were so many people, but I heard this weird, mechanical thing, and everybody just went on.
Now, Janet may hold answers for investigators. They're going to spend tomorrow interviewing passengers like her to find out more. We should say they have found nothing mechanically wrong with the train. No wheels off, no axles broken, everything looks intact. And just yesterday, investigators transportation safety inspectors were on the scene looking at the tracks. The tracks yesterday got a clean bill of inspection. So these are all things investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board will be looking at tomorrow. This, no doubt, will be a long night for many passengers on the Lakeshore Limited, many hanging out at hotels in Batavia. They were not able to reach their final destinations and are wondering when they will get their lives back in order. News Source 13's Patrice Walsh has been covering their side of the story tonight and joins us with that. Patrice?
Ginny, when you meet people like Janet, who we just saw in your interview, it's easy to see why everybody survived this terrible crash. They are unselfish people, more concerned about the other passengers than themselves. And right now, everybody's biggest concern is getting home.
I have like a sprain to my neck and my shoulder.
They are bandaged, bruised, and still visibly shaken by this terrifying experience. But more than anything else right now, they just want to go home.
Yeah, I'm going to be staying the night tonight, and then I get on it. We're going down to Buffalo, and we're going to get on a plane from there.
It's a laceration and chest pain, and I went flying from the right side of the car when it went over to the left side.
My arm hurt. I cut all across here.
You just want to get home.
Mary Hall spent most of the day in the hospital. Tonight, she and other passengers tried to find their luggage in the piles of personal belongings from the train. If they can't find their bags, many will stay the night in Batavia.
It has been a crazy day, yes. We were more than happy to help out.
Inside the hotel, travel agents help passengers get airline and train tickets to their destinations. Fred Fisher needs to get to Phoenix, but isn't having much luck.
This was my first time on an Amtrak, Joe. So hopefully the second time will be better.
Some of the displaced passengers are already headed home. They boarded this bus bound for Buffalo's airport earlier in the night.
This is an experience many of these people will not forget, although some say they will try. One man was heard saying as he got on this bus to leave town, "I'm not going to miss Batavia."
So it was an experience that I wouldn't recommend anybody to live through.
Now, many of the passengers hope to be able to head home tomorrow. The one thing we keep hearing from all the passengers is praise. Praise for the ambulance attendants, the police, the quick response on the scene, and praise for other passengers. As one man said to me tonight, Ginny, if people would have panicked, there would not have been survivors aboard this train.
I think it set in for a lot of them afterwards, certainly people I was talking to tonight. Is there anything available for them now that it's over, any kind of counseling?
The Red Cross is providing counseling to people when they need it, and some have taken advantage of it. It's available at the hotels where many of them are staying.
Okay, Patrice, thank you. We heard the stories of survivors all day long, people who walked away from the train wreckage. Many were asleep at the time of the derailment, and many said they weren't sure if they were going to make it out alive.
He grabbed me, I grabbed her, and he held onto me, and I held onto her, and then, I mean, it just was horrible. I went under the table, I didn't know what was going on.
The train started to rock back and forth, and I figured it was the right thing to do, to go help her out and make sure that her baby didn't end up on the floor. And
saw a lot of broken glass, a lot of bloody people.
What'd you do?
Just helped them out. Took the ones out that could be taken out. Let the EMTs like do the rest?
Because helping people is what life is. I mean, what would you like to be in a train wreck and not have anybody there for you? I mean, you have to help people. How can you not help mankind?
That kind of spirit got a lot of people through, Don. At last check, 35 people were being treated at the hospital. One was in critical condition, one was in serious condition, and one was in fair condition. One person told me tonight, a minor miracle that we all made it out alive.
Just thinking, I was jotting down that comment from the one woman, helping people is what life is, and I guess that's really what it's all about. Understand that there is a toll-free number that people can call if they're looking for information concerning passengers or people that may have been on there. Yeah, Don, Amtrak has set up a 1-800 number. We're going to show you that number now. It is 1-800-523-9101 for passenger information for folks along the Lakeshore Limited. The information line, 1-800-523-9101. Don? Okay, Jenny Ryan in Batavia, and we'll check back with you, of course, before the end of the broadcast tonight. Crews, they came from 2 counties, nearly 50 people in all. They were on the scene of the crack of dawn within minutes of that crash.
The rescue crews were terrific. They got all the praise in the world from me. They were there fast. And I must say, frankly, it's the only time I was damn glad to hear a siren.
Rescue crews weren't the only ones working hard at Batavia today. Local hospital personnel standing by. Batavia residents also rushed to the scene to help out. And the stories don't stop there. Boy Scout Troop 114 was on board the Lakeshore Limited. They were bound for a camping trip in New Mexico. As you heard from that one young man earlier, the Scouts pitched in, helping injured passengers out of the train. Indeed, a good deed for the day for all of those Scouts. Once again, we bring it all together for you tonight to tell you what we know. 340 people on board the Lakeshore Limited that derailed shortly after 4 this morning. 110 people injured, 2 seriously. Most of the injuries were minor, though. We know that 2, as we said, were serious. The investigation into the crash continues. Early indications may point to a problem with one of the cars. And as we said, Jenny Ryan is in Batavia. We'll get back to her in just a few minutes and update whatever we can. Right now, we're going to take our first look at today. Jenny Ryan joins us again now. We're going to look ahead to see what happens tomorrow and what role investigators are now playing, Jenny.
Don, investigators are camped out at the Sheraton. They've got what looks like the war room. They all have phones, and they're all sitting around a table talking and putting together evidence from the crash scene. Cranes right now are righting the wreckage. They're trying to get the wreckage back up, and they want the tracks open tomorrow at this time, so the tracks should be open tomorrow. Investigators tomorrow will spend the day interviewing passengers and looking at some of the evidence on the scene to figure out what happened. Again, they have not found anything wrong mechanically with the train, and they find no evidence on the tracks that something was wrong. As I said earlier, the tracks got a clean bill of inspection just yesterday. Another interesting thing, Don, they'll be doing is they're going to be looking at the injured passengers and see where they were on the train to see and correlate the injuries with where maybe the derailed cars were.
Okay, I know it's been a very busy day out there for everyone, and again, just to bring it together, as far as all of the injuries, I know over 100 people, but 2, as far as we know, are serious at that point. 1 critical, that passenger is in Buffalo, 1 serious, and 1 in fair condition. 35 were treated at the hospital. I'm not sure how many of them were admitted. The National Transportation Safety Board didn't even have the numbers about 9 o'clock tonight, so they're still sorting it out. Many of the passengers are staying at the local hotels in the area, trying to figure out a way to get out. They're not sure if they want to take a train, a lot of them. Okay, well, Jenny Ryan with 13 Live tonight in Batavia. Thanks again for all of the updates throughout the night. And, of course, we'll have more throughout the morning hours. Mary McCombs here in the morning, and 67.